Suicide Squad 2016 is definitely one of the worst fucking comic book movies you can watch. At its core, this movie is a mere shell of what it's supposed to be, full of cringe jokes, shit saturation that made the movie look like I was watching season 4 of Arrow, but with 2 knives stabbed into my back. And overall, this movie, even when you are with the homies and having a good time, that good time only lasts until you try and attempt to pay attention to the movie. 5 years later, the same man who made Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn, made his own soft reboot/sequel version of Suicide Squad titled The Suicide Squad. It seemed like James Gunn was posting up to be the saving grace because this was going to be a follow-up/reset of the shitty first movie, which I didn't enjoy in the slightest. I was really questioning myself if James Gunn can fix the pieces of the puzzle the first movie broke. However, comparing these two movies in the slightest shouldn't even be a thought in a person's mind. This movie is not only the best DCEU movie, but is one of the best comic book movies and probably will be the best one this year. Let's talk about it. I guess the first and easiest thing to talk about here is the plot, which is really simple. Amanda Waller has to destroy some tech that's illegally experimented by America off American soil and basically just to cover up their tracks. We start the film off with our first initial squad going in with Harley and Rick Flag being the only ones surviving this encounter. And we see Captain Boomerang and he dies. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, right off the bat we see just the first squad get fucking wiped out, which I think is such a perfect way to open the movie. It shows how not only are they all expendable, but also no one is really safe here. After the first squad gets wiped out, we get a scene of a few days before this moment with Amanda Waller forming a second team. One composed of Bloodsport, a man who can turn anything into a weapon and has a daughter. She doesn't even have a mother to look out for her and she just ended up stealing like her dad, with him only being upset just because she got caught. He's already said how he doesn't want anything to do with her, and why would she want to take up from her dad, a good-for-nothing killer like him? Anyways, Waller uses Bloodsport's daughter as a way for him to join since he didn't want to accept the offer initially, so now she's essentially saying join or your daughter's going to jail. He has then assembled a team composed of Ratcatcher, Polka Dot, John Cena, Peacekeeper, and lastly, King Shark. And this is where we cut back to around when the intro of the movie just occurred, with this squad going out to aid the first one. It's a very easy way to set up the movie, and this happens in the first 10-15 minutes of the movie. I also like how James Gunn during the movie and as certain events are happening, we get transition scenes like meanwhile or as this is happening. But he be doing it in mad unique ways, bro. Like it'll be like in the background somewhere, or you'll see it like written in fire or written in like bones on the sand. Like it was just cool shit like that, man. Cool little details, which I really did appreciate over my time watching this film. Now, I know the plot is pretty simple and doesn't really seem like the Suicide Squad. From looking at its plot initially, doesn't really look all that interesting and doesn't really seem like it would be the best DCEU movie. However, like other great superhero movies such as Spider-Man 2 or even in the MCU, Avengers 1, the plot really isn't a person's initial thought when thinking of the greatness of the movie. When I think of Avengers 1, I don't think of fucking Loki trying to cop a stone. Like, I'm not immersed by that. I don't care about Spider-Man 2 because Doc Ock is making a son that's going to be destroying the city. Like, who cares, bro? I like Spider-Man 2 because of Peter Parker, Aunt May. I love Avengers 1 because of the Avengers, the characters, the interactions. And that's what makes the Suicide Squad, in my opinion, work so well. The goddamn cast. The Suicide Squad's best moments that aren't in the final act are 100% just the members having a good time and us getting to know them and just them interacting with each other. Peacekeeper is a nice little foil to Bloodsport, with both of them trying to compete with killing in flashy ways. However, what's interesting to think about is Bloodsport having a daughter, and we see throughout the movie him having these human moments like being reminded of his own daughter when talking to Ratcatcher, him having his own fear of rats, and him even turning against his own mission due to him knowing what's the right thing, and not to mention Ratcatcher was also telling him the context about what happened, and Bloodsport came to this conclusion. Bloodsport and Peacekeeper started off as cold-blooded killers, but Peacekeeper stayed as that, whereas Bloodsport grew. And I also like how Peacekeeper is basically just like a hot-headed version of Bloodsport, while Bloodsport is more tactical, and that was the reason why he mainly won. He's just a cold-blooded killer who's carrying out his orders to the very end, and this is where most of the drama is stirred up in the movie. This is great since not only was John Cena perfect for the role, he did a fantastic job in carrying out this quippy killer dog who follows through to the very end. Also, John Cena, funny, haha. Now, I mentioned her earlier, but let's talk about Ratcatcher. This girl right here might have been my favorite part of the whole movie. Her backstory was great, and her and Bloodsport having the best relationship here when Bloodsport ultimately hates the one thing she can do to be useful is great stuff from the GOAT James. And ironically enough, she ended up being the clutch for the team against the final boss, and that final moment was so powerful, and that shit had me out of my goddamn seats. Now, other than these three main characters, the other characters I feel like aren't really as impactful, but they still add to the movie. For example, King Shark is just simply learning about life, becoming friends with the GOAT members of the Suicide Squad like Ratcatcher. We see him being sad, missing out when the squad goes into the club because he can't go in because he's a shark, you know, he can't just disguise himself, and him just bobbing his head in the back of the van along with just getting distracted most of the time. He was the brute of the team, having the best not only action scenes, but also comedy scenes easily. And speaking of comedy, following up would definitely be Polka Dot's funny scenes and that little running gag about him thinking of the enemy as his mother. I felt like he should have survived, really. I felt like his death was just kind of a funny haha joke moment, but the other deaths in this movie were really impactful, and they kind of got me, man. Not the homie Rick, man. But speaking of, Rick Flag and Harley surprised me the most, with the Rick Flag actually being a fucking character and having a goddamn personality, understanding that they have to try and do the right thing. And it's crazy how the person who was with Amanda the longest managed to actually do the right thing. And Harley, although she probably shouldn't be in this movie, like, she really doesn't have to be in this movie at all, and the main reason she really is because she's kind of the staple of the DCEU Suicide Squad. However, don't take this as me saying I dislike her inclusion, because I don't dislike it at all, and seeing her actually just getting past this Joker bullshit since Birds of Prey helps me find her way more likable here. So since Birds of Prey, I've been actually kind of liking Harley Quinn. She's actually her own person and had probably the most beautiful looking action scenes with the colors just popping, bro. The villain here was Starro the Destroyer and the Thinker, technically, I guess, but they weren't really too important narratively, rather just being there to get the story going and having cool fight scenes. Like, they didn't impact the narrative that much. And I think that's fine for a movie like Suicide Squad because the concept is having a group of rogues. I don't think they really need a foil to the Suicide Squad, since just having these guys get together is already enough to make a great movie with amazing interactions, godly visuals, great directing, and characters I actually care about. Holy shit, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I care about Harley Quinn. I care about Rick Flag. I actually like the Suicide Squad. And this is all because of you, James. Thank you. This year has been honestly fucking amazing for the DCEU, and I can't wait to see more. 10 out of goddamn 10. Thank you, James Gunn, you goddamn goat. It is 5 a.m. and I just got done recording me screaming about a comic book movie, and I think I'm just gonna go hibernate for a little bit. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. If you guys want me to cover more DCEU content, maybe review Shazam, let me know. Until then, this has been me, Tyler, and I'll see you all in the next one.